Sirens faded beyond the tenement as night pressed the windows, and the narrator watched Jasper tremble on a perch that smelled of rust and fear. Victor Hale said, "Quiet down," and the word hit like a thrown key across a cramped room. The cage door rattled as he paced, and Jasper leaned away, feathers tight as a closed fist. Outside, rain stitched the alley, and city lights smeared across a stained wall. Emma Brooks passed below, her steps slowing at a cry that did not sound human. The narrator felt a hush sharpen when Jasper mimicked a soft hello he had heard long ago. Victor laughed without warmth, and a bowl scraped empty metal. Jasper stared at the doorway as if a horizon might open there. The room gathered shadows, and the smell of smoke crawled under the paint. Somewhere, a second heartbeat answered the cry, small and steady, waiting to be named. Dawn bled into the alley, and the narrator saw dust float like tired stars around a cage that never slept. Jasper tested a syllable shaped like hope, and it fell short against wire. Victor Hale said, "No noise," and the command folded the room flatter. The floor kept a record of boots and broken hours. Jasper remembered a warmer voice, and the memory perched where food should have been. Cars woke the street with impatient throats. From the hallway, Emma Brooks paused again, unsure why the silence felt loud. Jasper traced the door with a stare that meant distance. A cracked cup on the counter marked time better than the clock. The morning carried the weight of nights that would not end. The narrator felt the day harden when Victor rattled the bowl and found it empty of patience. Jasper flinched at the rattle, and the room swallowed his small sound. Victor Hale said, "Worthless," and the word scraped the paint with its edge. A nail on the wall held a leash that never belonged here. Jasper shifted left, then right, as if a compass had forgotten north. Outside, footsteps traded stories on wet steps. A kettle whispered, and steam touched the ceiling like a ghost that kept returning. Emma Brooks climbed the stairs, counting breaths between doors. Jasper mimicked a whisper that meant help, and the air listened without promise. The day stretched thin, and the thinness cut. The narrator tracked a crack in the glass that aimed at the street like a map of escape. Jasper tilted his head and traced it too, beak tapping once. Victor Hale said, "Stay," to a bird who had nowhere else to go. In the hall, a soft knock from a neighbor moved past and faded. The ceiling fan muttered and threw stripes across Jasper's chest. A siren far away folded into the morning's hum. Emma Brooks reached the landing again, pressing her palm to the cool door, then letting it fall. Jasper answered with a whistle that sounded like a question. The cage absorbed the question and kept it. The day kept turning without mercy. When afternoon pressed in, the narrator counted the beats between Jasper's breaths and the room's quiet threats. Victor Hale said later to no one, and left the door half shut. Jasper leaned toward the opening and froze, held by habits that saved him and kept him small. The hallway sighed as the building settled. Emma Brooks stood at the bottom of the stairs, phone in hand, weighing a call against fear of being wrong. Jasper offered a soft hello that was almost a name. The word drifted out and met her hesitation midair. She looked up, and the light found her eyes. The day paused, and possibility entered like a held breath. The narrator watched Jasper's eyes carry a history of storms, their shine dimmed yet still catching sparks of memory. Victor Hale said, "Eat," tossing scraps that never filled. The parrot lowered his head, pretending not to hear the sharp edge in the voice. Yet in his chest, a song waited, broken but alive. The cage held silence like a vault, but the silence was not empty. Jasper's heart knocked against it, each beat a refusal to give in. The rain outside had eased, and through the cracks came a tender hum of life. Emma Brooks passed once more, her ear catching fragments of a call she could not name. Jasper whispered a soft phrase, a broken echo of love. The room bent closer to hear, and the moment became heavy with yearning. The narrator remembered Jasper's past, a warm hand once stroking his wings in a house filled with music. That melody lingered, ghost-like, in the way he mimicked words. Victor Hale said, quiet, as if crushing music itself, Jasper leaned against wire, eyes half closed, replaying fragments of a softer time. The smell of rust had replaced perfume, but memory was a stubborn flame. Outside, traffic sighed and children laughed. Sounds Jasper repeated with aching clarity. His voice cracked as if the words carried weight too heavy for wings. Emma Brooks slowed on the stair, hearing that fragile attempted joy. She thought of someone waiting behind bars, unseen but not unheard. The world had stolen his freedom, but his voice carried defiance still. The narrator traced the moment another soul entered, smaller, frightened, yet alive. A kitten had slipped through the broken vent, ribs showing beneath matted fur. Jasper tilted his head, studying eyes that mirrored his own fear. Victor Hale muttered filth kicking at the vent, but the kitten hid in shadow. Jasper gave a soft chirp, low and coaxing, a sound not for himself, but for the trembling life. The room thickened with tension as two broken creatures found recognition. Emma Brooks heard a faint mewl through the thin walls and felt her chest tighten. In that instant, the parrot was not alone. The silence fractured, and fragile connection stitched itself across the gloom. Survival had found a partner. The narrator felt Jasper lean forward, feathers puffed with something more than fear. The kitten inched closer, shaking but drawn by the voice that offered comfort. Victor Hale growled, "Useless creatures," and turned away, disinterested for now. The parrot repeated a whistle that curved like a hand extended. The kitten paused, then settled, curling into itself but within sight. Jasper's eyes softened, and in that gaze was the memory of warmth once given. Emma Brooks lingered at the stair rail, sensing something beyond cruelty inside the walls. She placed her palm on the door again, as though touch alone might cross the distance. In the hollow room, trust began its fragile first breath. The narrator felt the bond strengthen when Jasper echoed a word he had learned long ago. Safe, though broken by static in his voice. The kitten shivered, but its eyes brightened at the sound. Victor Hale snorted, pathetic, and slammed a cup on the counter, but the bond was untouched. The cage rattled, yet Jasper stood taller, as though the presence of another soul gave him strength. Emma Brooks heard the word and froze, heart racing as recognition struck. She whispered, "Who's there?" though her voice was lost in the stairwell air. The parrot answered with silence filled with meaning, and the kitten pressed closer into the corner. In a place built on shadows, a fragile light had begun to burn. The narrator felt the air shift heavy when Victor Hale slammed the cage with his palm, the clang slicing through Jasper's fragile calm. Victor Hale said, "You're nothing but noise," and the sound scraped louder than thunder. Jasper flinched but then steadied, eyes burning with unspoken refusal. The kitten darted under the broken cabinet, trembling yet near. The smell of stale liquor and ash smothered the air, pressing down on every living thing. Outside, Emma Brooks passed again, her steps slowing as the crash echoed down the hall. She touched the railing, debating if this time she should intervene. Jasper muttered a fractured "help," and the word clung to the walls. The cage held him like iron fists, but his spirit strained against each bar. The narrator traced Jasper's clipped wings, scars jagged like stories carved in silence. Victor Hale said, "Won't fly ever again," and laughed, cruel in its certainty. Jasper shifted on the perch, balance uneven, feathers dull in weak light. The kitten mewed softly, the sound like a cracked bell. Victor scowled and tossed crumbs onto the filthy floor, muttering curses that smelled of defeat. Jasper watched the crumbs fall and ignored them, his eyes fixed on the door instead. Emma Brooks heard the faint cry of wings and thought of cages too small for life. The room swallowed Jasper's dignity, but his spirit still hummed beneath the bruises of time. The moment hung heavy, sharp with sorrow, sharper with defiance. The narrator saw the kitten stumble forward, ribs heaving with effort, hunger dragging it closer to Jasper's cage. Victor Hale kicked a chair and snarled, "Stay back," as though punishing even silence. Jasper bent low, voice gentle, offering a whistle that calmed the trembling creature. The kitten paused, eyes fixed on Jasper with desperate trust. The cage rattled with Victor's careless shove, yet Jasper stood tall inside the small prison. Emma Brooks froze at the landing, clutching her bag, every instinct urging her to open the door. The air pressed tighter, carrying the weight of cruelty and connection in one room. Jasper spread what little was left of his wings, shielding with nothing but presence. Hope flickered fragile, but it flickered still. The narrator recalled a faint shuffle outside the door, and with it came another presence, old and steady. An elder stray cat slipped through the vent, fur gray with years and eyes carved by experience. Victor Hale muttered, "More pests," and threw an empty bottle that shattered near the wall. Jasper called softly, his voice carrying recognition of wisdom. The elder cat moved slowly, gaze deep, pausing before Jasper's cage as if to measure him. The kitten scurried behind the elder, clinging to the calm shadow it brought. Emma Brooks startled at the crash, then steadied herself, whispering, "Something's wrong." Inside, silence thickened with lessons yet to be spoken. The room brimmed with pain, but also with possibility. The narrator felt the world grow still as the elder cat lifted his head, eyes speaking more than voices ever could. Jasper echoed a low whistle, mirroring calm as if guided by unseen wisdom. Victor Hale spat, "I'll deal with you later," and stormed to the back room, leaving shadows trembling. The kitten crept closer to Jasper's cage, drawn by safety, born of courage. Emma Brooks pressed her palm harder to the door, every bone urging her to step in. The silence became a teacher, thick with warnings and quiet lessons of survival. Jasper closed his eyes briefly, gathering strength from the company of kindred souls. In the hollow of cruelty, resilience had found its fragile stage. The narrator marked the turning point when Emma Brooks finally stood at the doorway, breath caught, courage pushing against fear. She knocked once, firm but hesitant. Victor Hale shouted, "Who's there?" his voice edged with suspicion. Emma said softly, "I heard something," her words soaked in worry. Inside, Jasper repeated, "Help," the sound broken but clear enough to carry meaning. The kitten mewed faintly, its cry piercing the silence. Victor scowled, stomping toward the door, but his shoulders tightened as guilt flickered. The elder cat's eyes glowed in the dim, watching as if judging. Emma's heartbeat filled the stairwell, her hand pressed steady against the door. The moment trembled between confrontation and discovery, the room holding its breath. The narrator traced Emma's past through her weary eyes, a rescuer's heart carrying years of unseen battles. She had held broken animals, stitched wounds no one cared for, and still she came back for more. Victor Hale sneered, "Do-gooder," always snooping, trying to mask his unease with cruelty. Emma steadied her voice, saying, "I know what I heard, and I won't walk away." Jasper flapped once, clipped wings beating against wire with desperate rhythm. The kitten pressed closer to the elder cat, finding courage in its shadow. Emma's chest ached at the sound, her past memories of rescues flashing like scars. The air thickened with truth waiting to be revealed, and the silence no longer safe. The narrator lingered on Jasper's memory, a house filled with laughter once his own. He remembered music, warmth, and a boy's gentle hand that vanished too soon. Victor Hale spat. "They didn't want you, that's why you're here," his words dripping venom. Jasper squawked painfully, as if trying to reject the lie. Emma whispered, "He belonged to someone once, didn't he?" And the truth shifted. The kitten pawed softly at Jasper's cage, small touch carrying solidarity. The elder cat closed his eyes, as though confirming what was hidden. The room became a gallery of past betrayals, painted in dust and broken light. Jasper's eyes held both memory and defiance, his truth demanding to be seen. The narrator revealed a darker truth when Victor Hale's hand struck the cage, rattling metal like thunder. He growled, "You're mine, no one else," and the words cracked like chains. Jasper staggered but called out, safe, voice trembling yet unbroken. Emma gasped, heart pounding, knowing this was proof of cruelty no one could deny. The kitten hissed softly, tiny body trembling but unyielding. The elder cat stepped forward, placing itself between Victor's boot and fragile life. Emma said, "I won't leave him here," her voice breaking but sharp with resolve. The air roared with defiance, as if every scar in the room had spoken. Truth had surfaced, and with it, the inevitable clash. The narrator felt the decision crystallize as Emma pulled her phone, voice shaking as she dialed. Victor Hale shouted, "You'll regret this," but his fury faltered in the shadow of exposure. Jasper mimicked, "Help!" again louder, echoing like testimony across the cracked walls. The kitten's cry joined in, small but piercing, an orchestra of need. The elder cat held its ground, gaze burning into Victor like judgment itself. Emma said, "They deserve better," her words final as steel. The tension cut sharp, the story no longer hidden. Outside, the city lights flickered awake, signaling change. In the hollow of cruelty, the seeds of rescue had been planted. The narrator held the moment sharp when Emma Brooks stepped fully into the room, her breath steady despite fear. Victor Hale snarled, "Get out, this is my home," voice splitting the air. Emma raised her hand and said, "Not while they suffer here." Jasper screamed with a cry that echoed against the walls, his clipped wings flapping violently. The kitten pressed close to the elder cat, who stood its ground with quiet dignity. Victor's fists tightened, fury clouding reason, but his posture shook with unease. The air was thick with confrontation, each second balanced on the edge of violence. Emma's courage burned like a shield, her eyes locked on Jasper's suffering. The fight for freedom had finally begun, and the room braced for the storm. The narrator caught the air trembling as Victor Hale advanced, face twisted with rage. He shouted, "They belong to me," words striking like chains across the room. Emma Brooks lifted her phone, her voice steady, "Not anymore, the law will know." Jasper echoed the word, "Safe," louder this time, his voice carrying weight. The kitten hissed faintly, teeth bared, though tiny. The elder cat arched, claws scratching the floor in warning. Victor faltered for a second, eyes darting between Emma's calm defiance and Jasper's desperate cries. The room roared with tension, as though the walls themselves demanded resolution. The standoff burned hotter, every heartbeat a drum toward change. The narrator felt desperation sharpen when Victor Hale grabbed the cage and shook it violently, Jasper's feathers scattering like broken leaves. Emma Brooks cried, "Stop," and stepped closer, voice cracking with fury. Jasper clung to the perch, repeating, "Help," through trembling breath. The kitten bolted but stayed near the elder cat, both pressed to the corner. Victor shouted, "You're mine forever," but his words faltered under Emma's blazing stare. She said, "Not while I breathe," each syllable striking like stone. Jasper's eyes burned with fear and defiance, the soul of survival refusing to bow. The confrontation carved itself deep, each second dragging the fight closer to breaking. The narrator felt the climax blaze when Emma Brooks grabbed the cage, tearing it from Victor Hale's grip. He cursed, "You'll pay," but his voice cracked under her strength. Jasper squawked, wings flaring as if sensing freedom near. Emma shouted, "They're leaving with me," her eyes fierce with fire unshakable. The kitten darted from shadow, joining her feet as if claiming safety. The elder cat stepped between Emma and Victor, body steady as a shield of time. Victor's fury bled into frustration, his power fading in the face of truth. Jasper's cry pierced the night, sounding more like victory than despair. The air split with the sound of survival's triumph, defiance blazing brighter than fear. The narrator breathed the shift as Victor Hale stumbled back, his strength broken, rage hollow. Emma Brooks stood tall, cage held close, her chest heaving with determination. Jasper's eyes gleamed, hope alive for the first time in years. Kitten mewed loudly, pressing against Emma's leg as if begging to go too. The elder cat sat proud, watching with eyes like a judge delivering sentence. Victor hissed, "Take them then," voice cracking with defeat as he turned away. Emma whispered, "You're safe now," words falling like balm over wounds long open. Jasper answered with a clear "safe," no longer broken but whole. The room sighed with release, the fight for survival finally claimed in victory. The narrator breathed in relief, As Emma Brooks carried Jasper into her small apartment, the world outside replaced with quiet warmth. Jasper's eyes dotted, cautious but wide, feathers trembling as he took in the space. Emma whispered, "You're safe now," her tone gentle like a promise made whole. The kitten padded inside, tail low but hopeful, sniffing every corner. The elder cat followed slow, steps measured with wisdom, settling by the heater as if claiming peace at last. Jasper flapped once, clipped wings still heavy, but the sound was softer, less frantic. The smell of fresh bread lingered from Emma's kitchen, a contrast to the ash and rust of before. The home's silence felt different, not empty but protective. Survival was no longer about fear, it was about healing. The narrator watched Jasper hesitate before stepping onto Emma's hand, claws curling light on her skin. Emma whispered, "Take your time," steady voice carrying patience. The kitten mewed gently, rubbing its head against her leg, searching for comfort. The elder cat stretched, slow movements signaling safety and trust earned by years. Jasper tilted his head, eyes reflecting the glow of home, not the shadow of fear. Outside, rain tapped the window softly, no longer a threat but a lullaby. Emma's eyes softened with quiet tears, knowing the battle had only begun but the hardest part was behind. Jasper squawked softly, echoing a word half-formed. "Home!" In that single fragile sound, hope carved its first foundation. The narrator marked the moment Emma prepared fresh food, placing fruit and seeds in a clean dish. Jasper leaned forward eagerly, his beak tapping the edge before tasting with joy. The kitten pawed at a small bowl of milk, lapping noisily with relief. The elder cat sat nearby, watching with approving calm. Emma smiled, saying, "Eat well, you deserve it," her voice carrying kindness like medicine. Jasper flapped once, feathers brightening with each bite, energy sparking through his frame. The room filled with sounds of contentment, bowls clinking soft purrs, wings rustling. For the first time, the silence was alive with peace. The narrator whispered through the warmth. This was what survival was meant to feel like. The narrator followed Jasper as he perched near the window, looking at the city lights glittering like stars. His clipped wings spread slightly, catching lamplight in broken arcs of green. Emma said softly, "One day you'll stretch them fully again," her hope strong. The kitten curled in her lap, purring as though anchoring the moment. The elder cat dozed nearby, tail flicking in rhythm with quiet dreams. Jasper mimicked a gentle whistle, not one of fear but of wonder. The rain outside had stopped, replaced with calm night air. Emma leaned her head back, tears glistening, knowing scars would remain but trust had begun. The narrator said, in the hush of the room, freedom was no longer a dream but a direction. The narrator felt peace deepen as night grew older, every sound softer, every breath calmer. Jasper nestled into a clean perch, Emma placed, feathers smoothing as if finally trusting. Emma whispered, "Rest," her voice quiet but filled with strength. The kitten stretched beside her, paws twitching in sleep. The elder cat shifted close, body curled protectively around the younger. The apartment's glow dimmed with the turning of the lamp, shadows wrapping them in safety. Jasper's eyes closed slowly, his body no longer braced against fear, but relaxed into belonging. Emma sat beside them, her heart steady, knowing this family was stitched from scars. The narrator lingered. Healing had begun, and survival had become love. The narrator felt dawn spill gold across the room as Jasper perched by the window, his feathers glowing against the rising sun. Emma Brooks whispered, "Look at you," her voice trembling with joy. The kitten stretched beside the sill, paws twitching in dreams, while the elder cat sat steady, eyes half closed but peaceful. Jasper flapped gently, a whisper of wings that once had been broken now carrying promise. Outside, the city stirred, but inside the air was calm, filled with hope and belonging. For the first time, the parrot's gaze was not trapped in bars but lifted toward the horizon. The narrator traced Emma's smile as she opened the window slightly, letting fresh air sweep the room. Jasper leaned forward, beak open, tasting the new wind, his eyes shining with freedom. Emma said softly, "This is your world too," each word carrying strength. The kitten scampered near her feet, chasing light beams that broke across the floor. The elder cat stretched long, body relaxed as though peace had finally settled deep. Jasper let out a clear whistle, one that carried no fear but only promise. Outside, birds called from rooftops, their voices a chorus Jasper joined. The moment was simple, but it was everything survival had fought for. The narrator marked the shift when Jasper left the cage behind, perched freely in the living room. His wings, though clipped, spread wide, claiming space with pride. Emma Brooks said, "You belong here," her hand resting on the perch she had set by the window. The kitten jumped onto the couch, curling into a soft ball of safety, while the elder cat climbed slowly to join, resting with dignity. Jasper mimicked the word, "home," the sound clear, unbroken, and filled with truth. The air inside hummed like music, not the silence of fear but the rhythm of love. The narrator lingered on the quiet bond as Emma rested with the kitten in her lap, stroking its fur. Jasper perched above, eyes watching her with trust born of survival. The elder cat shifted closer, laying against Emma's side, purring deep like a drumbeat of comfort. Emma whispered, "We're family now," her voice steady, filled with certainty. Jasper whistled back softly, as if sealing the promise with sound. The room glowed with quiet beauty, shadows soft, light tender. Once broken souls had become each other's strength, bound by scars that now felt less heavy. The story was no longer of pain, but of healing. The narrator closed with the final image, Jasper perched by the window at sunset, feathers glowing like embers against the fading light. Emma Brooks stood beside him, her hand gently near, not holding but sharing space. The kitten lay stretched across the sill, small body safe at last, while the elder cat sat tall, watching the horizon with knowing eyes. Jasper spoke one last word. Safe, clear and strong, a testament carved from pain into triumph. The sun dropped behind the skyline, painting the room in fire and gold. Silence settled, not heavy but sacred, as if the world itself bowed to their journey. In that quiet, hope became eternal.